All right, guys, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. My name is Polzin with 9 to 5 Sports. Going to be getting into the Week 16 lineup builder, showing you guys my lineup process for both 20 entry max and 150 entry max contest, touching on the core play stacks, all that and in between. If you guys enjoy that coverage, make sure to give a like and subscribe. All right, let's get into it. So step one is going to be tell the lineup optimizer which players I think are core plays. And the way we do that is by bumping up the projections of those certain players. So I already went ahead and did CMC, Derrick Henry, but let's go ahead and do a few more. Maybe someone like Saquon Barkley, we can bump up, slightly as well. DK Metcalf, I think is going to be a strong play, especially in that matchup against KC. So I bumped him up slightly. Jerick McKinnon is someone I do want more of as well. Two straight great games target-wise there for Jerick McKinnon. Saw 60% of the snaps last week. We could see that happen again, and it's a very similar matchup against Seattle as it was last week to Houston. Maybe a little bump to Juju, maybe 14, just 10 plus targets the last 2 weeks. I like that a lot. Geno Smith, I don't think we need to really bump up his projection at all. He's already getting a lot of love by the projections, but let's go ahead and do 24. DJ Moore, kind of same thing. Maybe just bump him up slightly to 15. Mark Andrews, I'm going to say that's a little bit too high. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and bump Mark Andrews down a little bit. So some of the other players that I wanted more of were going to be Marquise Goodwin. He's currently questionable, but if he plays, I think he's going to be a stellar play, especially at that price point. Let's bump his projection up to 14. And then Jahan Dotson, just at his current price point, I think that's way too cheap to not love him as a play. So let's go ahead and do 14. So we're sitting pretty there. Let's go ahead and do some basic filter settings, just to show you guys what this would look like with those players in there. So we have tight end, flex and eligible, and I just did 35 total max exposure for players. So let's go ahead and generate a build. Okay, so we can see it is drawing in the players that we want the most of right here, which is great. That is exactly how we want this to work. One thing I want to do now is I'm actually going to go ahead and maybe fade some players, maybe reduce the ownership to them. So that's going to be step number 2. So just looking at it right now, maybe too much of Dalvin Cook. I'm just going to reduce his ownership down to about, let's just say 15%. I guess I'd be slightly underweight. And this is where I'm doing fades because I'm not exactly fading them. I just want pieces of other players more. So like DeAndre Swift, definitely going to lower that. I want the lineup optimizer to give me Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, or Jerick McKinnon, and basically all the builds. And that is going to be a step that I tell it to do as well, is that player groups, I'm going to go ahead and group those players together so that the lineup optimizer will know to do that. And then Brandon Cook's going to reduce this down to like 10. I'm actually pretty good with this. TJ Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert. I'm fine with that. I actually like that a decent amount. The one player I probably want more of would actually be Will Dissly. Just given the fact that Noah Fant could be out. So let's go ahead and do like 10 for Will Dissly. Max exposure of about 20%. Just to force him into some builds. And that's, once again, that's if Noah Fant is out. That is something we can go ahead and rebuild tomorrow morning if we need to. Definitely a little bit of too much of Laviska Shenault for me, so I'm going to go ahead and do maybe 5. Let's see here. Maybe a little bit too much of Isaiah Hodgins. Don't want to go too crazy with that. And then even Jahan Dotson, maybe only 30%. But I still want those players because I think they're going to be strong price point plays, and that should open up a lot lineup process-wise. But let's not go crazy with it. So now we kind of have it set up the way that we'd like to do. Let's just generate this again. Okay, so now we have it suited more the way we like it. Getting a lot of Geno Smith, getting a lot of Derrick Henry, Jerick McKinnon, and whatnot. So let's go ahead and let's put in the stacks. So we go into settings and we're going to go by position stacks to start with. And the position stack that I'm going to put in there is I want to stack quarterback with receiver on the same team. And these are the teams that I want it to be: KC, Minnesota, Carolina, Buffalo, and Seattle. Okay, so we got that one. Let's go ahead and do another stack, but we're going to restrict this stack. It's going to be defense and quarterback, running back, and maybe even receiver. Now let's take receiver out. Opposing team. So I don't want a DST when a lineup includes the quarterback or the running back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. So that is going to spit it out in the correct way. And so now we will see that lineups that include like Geno Smith will definitely include Marquise Goodwin. Lineups that include Patrick Mahomes will include a receiver. So Geno Smith, we can see, also has Marquise Goodwin. Sam Darnold, who I think will be a good stack. He should have DJ Moore, and he does. Let's go ahead and see Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has Juju. Okay, that is set up the way that we would like it. Okay, so let's go ahead and take that one step further now. So let's go ahead and do some team stacks. Okay, so I want at least 2 players from Seattle, and let's say, I don't know, 40% of the builds, maybe 35%. Okay, so I want that, and then maybe we do KC as well. I don't know if we have to do KC. I feel like Seattle's the only team that we need to go out of our way to target. The rest of them are only decent. So yeah, let's not go too crazy with that. So let's just save that. So we are telling the lineup optimizer that we want a majority of Seattle. That's our main team that we want a piece of. like last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. A lot of the times when it's been like a team against Detroit or a team against Miami, this has been the step to tell it that, like, I know this is going to be a great matchup. Let's go ahead and force it into there. So let's go ahead and do some player groups. I already mentioned that, like, when a lineup includes Christian McCaffrey, I want at least 2 of Henry, McKinnon, Barkley. Okay. So that's kind of my approach there. And then I can actually do that for Derrick Henry as well. So I want at least 2 of CMC, Saquon, McKinnon. And so I feel pretty good about that. So let's go ahead and generate that again. So now we're seeing the lineup optimizer spit it out a little bit more optimally, to the point where we are getting the running backs that we want. We are getting the exposure to the running backs that we want there, which I really like. Okay. So let's go ahead and do a couple more steps here, and then we'll be showing you guys how to do 150 entry max. So a couple more player groups that I want is Geno Smith. When a lineup includes Geno Smith, I want at least, let's go 2 of, and this is where I might get some of Kenneth Walker. But let's go ahead and we're going to do Goodwin, Metcalf, obviously, Disley, because I think Noah Fant could sit. So then we would want Disley. There we go. And then also Walker. This is where we could potentially get some exposure to Walker. So there's that. Okay. Another one that we can do, Sam Darnold. I actually think Sam Darnold could be sneaky good, but when a lineup includes Sam Darnold, I really want to go crazy with the stack. Okay. I want maybe Chuba Hubbard, because obviously if Sam Darnold's doing well, it's going to be a pass heavy script. And so if it's a pass heavy script, we're probably looking at St. Brown. Okay. Maybe DJ Chark as well, because they're facing each other, Detroit. So that's a path that we can go. And then obviously if we're playing Sam Darnold, we want DJ Moore. And then we also would like Marshall as well. And this is kind of a crazy stack. Obviously only about 20% for Sam Darnold. So let's generate this, make sure it's spitting it out correctly. All right, so Geno Smith, we should see, all right, we got DK Metcalf and Marquise Goodwin in there, and that's going to be consistent, okay? It's actually putting in Will Disley there as well, which I like. I personally like that. Another step we could do to that is, if you really think it's going to be a big game, a game that you need a stack, what you could do is player groups, and instead of just that, we could go ahead and add another step. We could go Travis Kelce, okay? Maybe Juju and McKinnon, okay? Because that is telling the lineup optimizer that we want to game stack this. And this is where, you know, we've had lots of success early on in the season by targeting like Miami, and lately targeting Detroit by doing this. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and do McKinnon here, and I'm at it, bump this up to 3 now. Okay. So there's another step. And then let's go ahead and just do the Mahomes one as well. So when a lineup includes Patrick Mahomes, I want at least 2 of these players. That's going to be Kelce, obviously. Okay. That's going to be Juju, maybe Tony, because, you know, this is a GPP setup. Okay. So if Tony goes off, which he could, like if he gets 50% of the snaps, he could easily go off. Heck, he played 1 snap and had 1 reception. Like, obviously they like him. Obviously we already know he's a talented player. So let's go McKinnon as well. And then a little bit more concentrated here, Metcalf. I don't want Disley in this particular one, because I want Kelce at the tight end, and I don't want a tight end to be in the flex. And you could do at least 3. I'm going to go at least 2. And then the last stack I want is going to be kind of a unique stack. Okay, so I want a Kirk Cousins stack. So there we go. And I want at least like 3 of these players, because I think we could run it back in this game. So let's go ahead and do Justin Jefferson, obviously. There we go. Let's go ahead and do Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne. I kind of teased it a little bit last week. I'm like, KJ Osborne having a big week would not be shocking. And he obviously went off and did that. A little bit lucky there, but like that's just kind of him as a player. He's like a poor man's Zay Jones. So the Vikings are going against the Giants. So with that, maybe go Isaiah Hodgins. And this is where we could get some exposure to him as like a cheap value price point play. And maybe Richie James as well. You could also go Darius Slayton. Okay, so I'm going to actually do another rule onto this. Okay, so I want at least 3 of those. Okay, so let's just run that to see. And so it actually didn't give us any Kirk Cousins stacks, because, well, we need to bump up his projection slightly. So let's do that. Let's bump it up to, I don't know, let's just do 25. And we only want like 10% of this stack. Okay, so that's going to tell it that we want to force Kirk Cousins into some builds, but we don't want too much of it. So let's go ahead and generate that. And now we can see we have some Kirk Cousins stacks. Okay, it's got Cousins in there with Dalvin Cook, which is interesting, but we got KJ Osborne, TJ Hawkinson. Okay, so one thing I might do is when a lineup includes Kirk Cousins, it can't include Dalvin Cook. So I'm going to do that one as well. So Kirk Cousins, I want exactly 0 of Dalvin Cook. Okay, so that's just one rule we can do there. And then another rule that I want to put out there is when a lineup includes Adam Thielen, I don't want any of KJ Osborne. I kind of want it to be one or the other. Okay, so there we go. We had that set up correctly. That is going to be a great way to go about getting that game stack. So I like to start off with just doing 20 lineups, just to make sure that the lineup builder will be able to handle the full constraint of 150 lineups, okay? Because if it can handle 20, it should be able to handle 150. But sometimes we tell it too much and it just doesn't work out the way we would like it to. All right, so there we go. We have it set up a little bit better. The one issue I have with this in particular is that maybe a little bit too much Alvin Kamara with the Kirk Cousins ones, but I'm fine with that. That works. Okay, so let's go ahead and I think we're good. Let's just make sure we're not getting too much of a certain player. Okay, so yeah, Alvin Kamara, that's too much. I don't want that much of Alvin Kamara. Let's go ahead and reduce this 10% because there is a path to which Alvin Kamara could have a good game with Mark Ingram out. Okay, he did see his most snaps of the season with Mark Ingram out. He just is very touchdown dependent. And then Miles Sanders is also a very interesting GPP play. With Jalen Hurts out, you would kind of think that he would have a better chance of scoring a touchdown. That is the thought process there, but I really don't want that much of him, 10%. And then maybe, just maybe, Gardner Minshew, maybe we toss in him into two or a couple of builds. Okay, so the one adjustment I want to do is I actually want more of the Bears D, just because you guys know my strategy. I like to pay down at the defensive position. Okay, it just makes the most sense. Don't hinder your lineup process. Then I'm going to toss in a little bit of the Texans D as well, obviously going against a backup quarterback there. So we're going to go ahead and do 150 max now. All right. So we have all the lineups that we want, okay? And with 150 lineups, we're going to see what it's spinning out to us. So obviously Geno Smith's still getting in there, and this is a pretty solid build based off of the constraints that we want. Let's go ahead and look at potentially like Patrick Mahomes build. And one thing I like to see is that we are getting some Kenneth Walker now. Like we were trying to tell the lineup optimizer that, hey, I want to game stack that game. So we are seeing that as well. So Patrick Mahomes builds, okay, let's look at it. They're getting a little bit too unique for me, possibly. So I might create another rule, which would just be, hey, I want lineups, and I guess it can't really do it, I guess, is the problem, because if we're paying up for Patrick Mahomes and trying to fit Travis Kelce into our builds, well, we can't afford to pay up for the stud running back. So that actually does make sense. But maybe just like one of those running backs, so that could be another rule that I create. When a lineup includes Patrick Mahomes, I want at least one of CMC, Derrick Henry, McKinnon, or Saquon Barkley. One player that I forgot about, and this is my apologies, guys, Ramondre Stevenson. I need to get him into a lot of builds. Just completely blanked on him. I apologize. So I'm actually going to go ahead and update these. And once again, apologies, just kind of slipped my brain there. Let's get Stevenson in these too, because I think Stevenson just going to be a stellar play. Okay. So there we go. We generate this again, and he should be in more builds now. All right, so we are good. That worked out perfectly. We got more Stevenson in there, which I love, and that should mean that we are going to get more Stevenson builds rather than Cook or, Alvin Kamara a little bit lower down, which is what we are seeing, which that's great. And then one thing I do want to remind you guys as well, this was huge as a tool last week, okay? Where we got news that Stevenson was going to be active and then Damian Harris was going to be out. This is where I just was able to just click the rebuild button because the projections were adjusted to the news, which was great. So one thing, maybe, I like Will Dissly, but if Noah Fant plays, because we adjusted his projection, you would have to just click off of him. Okay, so you do that, and then you go back into the builds, and then you could just click rebuild, and then it's going to rebuild all those lineups to not include Will Dissly, which I obviously like a lot. But that's all I have for you guys for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, you know what to do. Give a like and subscribe. That helps me continue to be able to put out more content for you guys. All right, let's have a good slate, guys. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section below. But that's all I have for you guys for this video. You're probably going to be watching this video either today or on Christmas Eve before lineup lock, and just wanted to wish you guys a Merry Christmas. All right, let's have a good slate, and as always, let's keep cash.